Hello everyone, it's Fabian from GFI. Welcome back to my channel, and in case you're new to my channel, then this is your chance to hit the subscribe button and also touch that clock button, and I promise you're not going to miss any more of my videos in the future. Right, a few days ago I made a video about Hansi Flick no longer being Germany coach and more or less the general reason and circumstances of how this Germany team could fall in such a relatively short period of time, from being world champions in 2014 to crashing out of the group stages at the world's biggest tournaments regularly. Right, and we went through the candidate list of some possible replacements for Flick, and I promised to you that once there is a new guy in, I'm gonna make a video about it. So here we are. Julian Nagelsmann has landed the job. He has signed a 9-month contract. Basically it's 9 months because that'll get him through the Euros next year, and afterwards I presume they will sit together, analyze and see whether this is going to continue or not. His assistant coaches have also been announced. It's Benny Wirth and Sandro Wagner. Especially Sandro Wagner might already be a name you know. He's been quite a prolific striker at a variety of clubs in Germany. He's also already had some coaching success, amongst others with Unterhaching and recently. But he's also quite an open-minded TV pundit. Really spoke his mind in a couple of situations, and I think people like him for that. So this is certainly a very interesting coaching lineup, I think, especially given Nagelsmann is just 36 years old. I am a bit surprised that he's landed the job. Well, for one reason, I'm not surprised. That's because I think this is the only name I know that the people from the DFB have spoken to recently. So I'm not too surprised because of that. However, I am a bit surprised because if you remember my video, I said that amongst some other things we're going to talk about shortly, I couldn't see how they would solve this financially. Because, technically speaking, Nagelsmann was still under contract at Bayern. How does this work? Well, I guess most of you will know this already, but for those who don't, a little bit of theory here. If you read in the news that Club ABC fires or has fired coach XYZ, then usually that coach is still on the payroll of the club. Now, why is that? Because in the vast majority of cases, coaches get fired when they have collect bad results over a longer period of time, and at some point the club feels that it has to sack the coach. Now, scoring bad results or, playing a tactic that club management doesn't want to be played is, of course, no legal ground to terminate a work contract, right? That's only possible if there's a really rough infringement of the terms that have been stipulated in the contract. So, i.e., there is real wrongdoing. Then, of course, terminating the contract is sort of the last string in a series of legal actions that can be taken up. But in most cases, of course, coaches get sacked because they are not successful. And in that case, the club can only really suspend the coach, which means they want someone else to perform the duties stipulated in the work contract. But of course, the coach is still legally contracted to the club and therefore also due to receive salary. And that usually goes on until there is another agreement being done where both parties mutually agree to terminate the contract. And usually that incurs either some sort of lump sum payment, some compensation for the salary then that would be foregone, or the coach is about to enter a new contract with a different club and of course needs to be freed. That's then good for the old club because the coach is off the payroll. Now, Most of you, as I said, will know that, and that was the case with Nagelsmann. Now the problem is Nagelsmann was only into his second year of a contract that would have seen him being coached at Bayern until 26, which means, according to the press, he would have received under 26 salary in total of around 20 million euros. Now, I think we all agree that's quite a bit of money. The DFB now will pay him for the next 9 months a little more than 4 million euros, I believe. And Bayern Munich have decided to contribute by paying him another 1.5 million euros, which, if you've done the maths, should amount to something between 5 and 6 million euros. Now, to answer the question, how has the DFB solved this financial problem, this situation, the answer is they have, by convincing Nagelsmann to take the job and thereby basically giving up on quite a fair bit of money. So just to sum this up correctly, Nagelsmann could have just stayed at Bayern. I mean, he's only 36 years old. He could have, done an around the world cruise, go fishing, whatever, receive around 20 million euros, collect offers, and then, join that offer or accept that offer which he thinks is best. But instead, he's decided to take over this job, which is everything but a success, getting paid 6 million and thereby giving up on 14 million euros, around 14 million euros. Now, that's basically where the situation where every kind of family lawyer would tell you, don't sign this, that's bad for you. But that's what happened. So what does that tell us? I think what it does tell us is that Nagelsmann was really keen to take over this job, and he's basically given the best and the fullest commitment that he could have possibly given to take over the job. So whatever you think about Nagelsmann, you can't say he isn't committed to this job. He absolutely wants to do it. We all know he's been speaking to clubs over the summer, some big clubs as well. Hasn't decided to join any of them, and I'm sure, given his age and his track record already, that he would have gotten more chances over the next months. There's always some top league clubs, releasing their managers, and he would have always been in the candidate pot, not only in the Bundesliga but also in other European top leagues. No question about that. And you mustn't underestimate the magnitude of the task ahead for him. This is not like Bayern Munich, a team that's in good shape. The house is not in good order. This team is currently absolutely down, and there is a real chance for him. I think that's the only way to analyze it. There's a real chance for him not to be successful, which would add up to his previous sacking at Bayern Munich and could have quite a devastating effect on his track record and career record so far. So once again, whatever you think about Nagelsmann, he's really made a huge commitment. And the little irony about this is, I obviously watched the press conference when the DFB unveiled him as the new national coach, and he repeatedly emphasized he doesn't want this to be at the center of the press talk. Now, of course, I think that's a little tricky. That's exactly what he wants. But fair play to him, he's done that, and he's got every right to do that. Now, let's quickly talk about the pros and cons, and I'm going to start with the cons. What speaks against Nagelsmann being successful as a new DFB head coach of the German national team? Now, I think number one, that's the one that's always been given: young age, 36, lack of experience. Well, you can't argue with that. He doesn't have the experience of a Conte, of a Mourinho, of a Carlo Ancelotti, of a Louis van Gaal. doesn't have that, and he can't have that. I think for a 36-year-old, he's got amazing experience, no questions asked. But of course, in terms of total experience, he can't match that. So that remains a certain concern. The second thing is Holger Batshuayi, the former Bayern Munich player. He was one of the critiques, and he said, well, Nagelsmann is a guy who likes to build up a team from bottom up. He likes to work with the players every day, which you can do at a club. Now, in a national team, you can't do that because at most times of the year, you don't have your players there to train. When it's time the national team meets up, the players come from anywhere really. They all play in different systems for different coaches, different leagues, different playing styles. And, you only have a very short and limited amount of time to get things in order. And once again, this is not a team that's generally in a good order. This is a team in absolute shambles, really. Low on confidence, no real core team. So really, he has to really start from scratch, to be honest. And of course, in connection with the less experience and younger age, you have to ask and wonder whether Nagelsmann, who's absolutely new to being a national coach, he's coming from club football, is up for the task. We don't know. And last but not least, there's of course a question also. Some people ask whether he's too soft. I don't know. He's certainly not the kind of imposing figure like a Van Gaal is. And some people suggest that because there have been reports about lack of discipline, lack of order, lack of team order, and some guys who sort of dictate what's going on. Some people have questioned whether the team needs maybe someone who is a little bit more of an imposing figure, like a Van Gaal, Louis van Gaal would have been. I guess time will tell. We don't know. Time will tell. So what's the pros? What are the pros? Why could Julian Nagelsmann be the right guy? Well, I think his biggest asset is that Nagelsmann is just a completely different guy compared to Joachim Löw and Hansi Flick. Now, both, also the guy that's just departed, Hansi Flick, are terrific coaches, and I don't think that a lot of people in Germany would argue with that. If you've seen the kind of echo at the last Bundesliga match day, most coaches have been asked about Nagelsmann and the one that's departed, Hansi Flick, and I haven't heard a single bad word about Hansi Flick. They all felt in a way sorry, and I also think, I'm not sure if they could really understand it, but none of them, I think, has anything to say against Hansi Flick, and I think that goes also for the German football public, really. I think the majority of the German football public still cannot really understand what's gone wrong there. So Hansi Flick, I think, is a terrific coach, but Nagelsmann is a completely different character, completely different guy, because with Löw and Flick, they're both sort of the same alley. Yes, they're obviously different, but of course Flick's been assistant coach under Löw from 2006 to 2014. So of course they're sort of aligned in a way. They're within the same, I think, coaching philosophy. Whereas Nagelsmann is a completely different guy, and he's bringing an absolute fresh breath of air. And you could already feel that in the press conference. And it just reminded me, I also watched some interviews from his time at not only Bayern but also Leipzig. You could see in the end of his Bayern tenure, you could see that he was already a little bit under stress, under watch. He was more loose, more at ease, I think, at Leipzig, and he had some really cool interviews there, and especially those sometimes a little bit daft questions that reporters can ask. He always had a cool answer to that, and I think, it just reminded me what a cool guy he is. I think he can be the player's best friend on the sideline, and I just think that the sort of atmosphere within that Germany team was so poisoned at the end, the kind of, because of that bad series of results and everyone watching them and there's no room for mistakes, really. I think it needed that. It needed this kind of liberation with a guy who comes in, has a good credit score, not already in the bad corner, who can start anew, and who's just bringing in a completely different style. And I think the relationship between the players and the coach with Nagelsmann will be a completely different one. And of course, there will be some who benefit, maybe some also who will not benefit. But overall, I think it will liberate the team, and there's a real chance that we'll see a completely changed national team the next time they play. So what's left for me to do really is my personal take on this, or the question I'm most curious about to see answered, is whether Nagelsmann can sort of, in this new job, solve the sort of open question that he's left when Bayern Munich kicked him out. Because when that happened, in the end of March this year, just when Bayern was sort of heading into the season finale, pretty much everyone I know agreed that the timing wasn't good, the style wasn't good. But when it comes to why he was fired, opinions already differ. Of course, some still don't find it right, but then there's some who kind of say, well, you can't argue with the fact that he sort of failed to create the bigger idea for Bayern. I don't mean the plan for the next 2-3 matches, but sort of the signature, the playing style, the playing model. So you can say, well, that's Bayern under Nagelsmann. And I actually buy into that. I think, as I said, great guy, very gifted, very talented, and already good experience for his age. Fresh approach, very positive, dynamic. But yes, I do agree that in those 1.5 years and a little bit more, he sort of failed to bring that Bayern team onto the next level, to sort of develop his formula for Bayern. I think he could do that. And of course, what would make him or pull him up onto the level of some of the other really great coaches would be to see that he can actually do that with the national team. That's going to be very interesting to watch. And let me know what you think. Do you agree with those views? Do you have a different opinion? I'm very excited to see and hear it. And that's it for me. Have a good evening. See you soon. Bye.